Hello guys, and welcome back to a very new episode of the Keeping Goals podcast. A little bit of a different look, a little bit of a different format, but as you guys know, we're keen on making the Keeping Goals podcast as good as it can possibly be. And in order to do that, you may have noticed, we have someone else here with me.
Yeah, what's going on here? I thought I'd finish my work for the week. We just had a vlog on Sunday, and now you've roped me in to do a podcast. What's this?
See, you guys are used to us normally having the Keeping Goals vlog every single Sunday, 11 a.m. UK time. And that's pretty much it. Last season, we did a few podcasts. You may remember that me and Johnny even did a podcast with the two of us. But on my part, I wasn't very consistent. We didn't bring the podcast very often. I know a lot of you guys loved it. So in order to try and make it as consistent as possible, and as always, bring you guys the most value, we decided to shake it up a bit, bring Johnny on board, do it with a better process, make it look a lot easier for you guys and sound a lot better for you guys. So here it is. You could almost say that this is series 2 of the Keeping Goals podcast.
Yeah. So for those people who are kind of wondering, like, what we're going to be talking about, what's happening, how we're going to be going more in depth with everything that's going on in your life.
Yeah, so I think with how we've worked on the vlog, especially in the past, Johnny, we've tried to make it as in-depth as possible to document a journey, to bring you guys along for kind of every up and every down of the process of trying to reach the highest level of football possible, and in my journey to become a professional goalkeeper at that level. But seeing as we only really have 15 to 20 minutes on a vlog once a week, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it into the vlog, which can still be of a lot of use to you guys and hopefully bring you guys some value. So in order to bring it to you with even more content and even more value, we decided to expand the podcast, go in a little bit more depth, talk about topics in more depth that maybe didn't make it into the vlog, have some guests on, we could potentially analyze some game footage, different topics which perhaps don't get full coverage in the vlog, we can discuss in more depth with this format of podcasts, and you'll be there to help with it, which helps a lot.
Yeah, so I think you kind of mentioned there how it's going to work. Each podcast, we're planning on being together. Going to try and make it neat and schedule content with bite-sized chunks so that you guys can take away the key points from our guests that we have on board. Maybe we'll be discussing some sports news, some football news, or some goalkeeper analysis, like Conor said, with some of the games that Conor's been doing out in Sweden. Or maybe there's some hot topics with some goalkeeper footage that's going around, and we can talk about that kind of a little bit more in depth as well. So yeah, I'm really excited for starting a new podcast, starting a new project with Conor, and it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we had some great feedback on the podcast with the first, I think it was 4 episodes that we did, 3 or 4 episodes. A lot of you guys really did enjoy it, which was amazing to hear. And it was frustrating that we couldn't be really more consistent with it and bring it to you on a more regular basis. So this is exactly what we're trying to do with the Keeping Goals podcast 2.0, as it were. And as Johnny says, more coverage, more topics, more guests, and in the end, hopefully, more value for you guys.
So, as we've seen from the vlog, you are in quarantine after arriving in Sweden. You did mention in the vlog also that you almost didn't get there. So, for those of you who don't know, and an international audience, Britain, or GB, not Northern Ireland, have actually left the EU, which for those of us who want to travel around the EU means that we can't roam as freely as we maybe did in the past. So, yeah, Con, tell us a little bit about how it was for you getting there.
Yeah, this has obviously been a process which has kind of developed over a number of years. I think the original vote to leave the EU and to initiate Brexit, as it were, was back in 2016. So I think it actually happened whilst we were both at Loughborough, because I remember the day that it happened. Yeah. And I think ever since that point, I kind of knew that I wanted to play abroad and travel and play in different countries. As you guys have seen with the Keeping Goals vlogs, we've played in Spain, we've played in Gibraltar, we've played in England, and now we're playing in Sweden. So for someone like myself who kind of makes a living on a very basic level, traveling across Europe to ply their trade, it was obviously quite a difficult decision and you had to adapt to it. Fortunately for myself, I have family who are Irish. On my dad's side of the family, we're Irish, so I was able to be eligible for Irish citizenship and an Irish passport. So as soon as the kind of EU vote happened, I knew pretty quickly that I needed to get that sorted. So almost back in 2016, I started working on making sure that went through. Fast forward to the present day, when it actually became concrete that Britain had left the EU on the 1st of January 2021, like you said, again, things were still very up in the air because everyone's so used to people being able to move so freely. So couple that alongside COVID, which no one expected, and suddenly you have a kind of melting pot of chaos where no one's knowing who can come in, no one knows what you need from paperwork side of things. My first flight to come back to Pittier for pre-season training was scheduled for the 28th of December. That was cancelled due to kind of the new variant that happened in the UK. There was travel bans from lots of different countries. So I was sitting back at home in Macclesfield in England with the flight cancelled, not sure when I'd be able to get back to Pittier, not sure if I'd be able to travel because of COVID, not sure if my documents would be accepted because of Brexit. It was a very kind of stressful time. So for someone that had signed a contract and obviously had to be there for work, it was quite uncertain. Fortunately, Sweden allowed people in for work. I had to go and get a COVID test done, which, as a few of you guys I'm sure will know, is actually pretty uncomfortable, but we got that done. And then with the kind of Irish documents, as I said, and my work contract from Pittier, I was able eventually to get into the country. But it was quite stressful, and the quarantine is unfortunately something that we have to do as a result. But as soon as it's done, I should be good to go.
Yeah, and I know you kind of mentioned it in some of the YouTube comments that I was reading after episode 1. That some people were a little bit worried, like, where's Series 5? We want Series 5 now. And you're like, guys, calm down. It's just we've had to delay it like a week just because of everything happening and everything being up in the air. But yeah, we are finally there, and you finally and thankfully have made it to Sweden. So
I mean, it was quite difficult from that point of view because I mean, even for us, we were trying to plan when to start Series 5. We'd ended Series 4 with such a great episode with the guys from the Modern Day GK. It had been received so well, it had gone down so well, so many people enjoyed it. We wanted to have a little bit of a break because we'd come to the end of that series, we had Christmas, that kind of thing. But I mean, I remember speaking to you multiple times thinking, when can we get Series 5 going? We were planning it, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And the last thing we really wanted was to start Series 5 in lockdown in the UK, exactly the same as it was at the end of Series 4. We wanted to have that natural progression of the story of what was happening and getting back to Sweden. So if it had gone on any longer, we probably would have had to start Series 5 with lockdown home workouts again, which no one would have really enjoyed. But thankfully, like you say, we managed to get back out here and we can start Series 5 properly, start the 2021 season with Pittier properly and really kick on with it.
Yeah, so you mentioned the quarantine there. You must be coming to the end of it. Is it a couple of days, is it left?
Yeah, I think the process is that before I arrived, I had to have a COVID test back in the UK to be allowed in. And then as soon as you were here, you had a COVID test on day 1 and then a COVID test on day 5 or day 6. So I've got a COVID test tomorrow, which is my last one. And then if that's negative, fingers crossed, we should be able to kind of get back into training properly. So I've had 2 negative ones so far, 1 more to go. And yeah, the quarantine's been interesting. We've had, I mean, as you know, I've just probably been ringing you up just to keep me company, but we've been doing lots of work on keeping goals. We've done the podcast, like you say. That's kind of helped things to move quite quickly, but it also gets very dark very quickly in Pittier. It gets dark around 2 p.m. at the minute. So when it's dark and you're
we're recording this at 2:30, aren't we? And it's already dark in Pittier, which is 3:30.
Yeah, any of you watching the video will be able to see that I've got dark and only a few lights in the room. But no, it's okay. We're getting there.
Yeah, it's a new flat for you, a new environment. Is it in a similar area?
Yeah, I mean, Pittier itself is not that big of a town. It's quite a small town and quite similar to where I'm from back home in Macclesfield, and not dissimilar to Loughborough as well, where we were. But the town itself, we're a little bit closer to the centre of town with this new flat now. So a little bit easier to get to shops, a little bit closer to the gym, but everything's within a 10, 15 more minute walk, which is really easy. So again, once we started training, it's only 10-minute walk to the stadium, which is great.
That's great. Well, yeah, new flat, but bet you can't wait to finish the quarantine and get out there and get training again.
I know. I think people listening will understand, because wherever you are in the world, you'll have had some sort of restriction within the past year, and you know how difficult it is to maintain your training, maintain a progression, and even maintain kind of motivation for what you want to do. I remember the first lockdown in the UK. I think you probably feel the same, Johnny. Like in the beginning, there was almost a little bit of excitement because it was so new. Everyone was almost like, oh, what can I do to be productive? What can I do to keep going? I was the same. You look back and all the kind of home training we were doing, like the garden workouts for goalkeepers and stuff like that. And then as lockdown 2 and lockdown 3 happened, there's a natural strain on the motivation to do that kind of stuff. And even here in quarantine, I've got a 5 to 7 day quarantine, whatever it is. And I know that I need to maintain the work that I'm doing. Excuse me. So I know that I need to keep doing my home workouts. I need to keep doing my stretching. I need to keep doing my shoulder prehab. I need to make sure that as soon as pre-season starts, I'm ready to go, because I've done so much work in the off season to make sure I'm at the peak once pre-season starts. But there's a little caged animal inside you that's saying, oh, just sit on the sofa and watch Netflix because you don't like doing home workouts. And you have to battle that. So that's been something which kind of each day in quarantine, I've made sure that I've been doing my workouts, I've been doing my stretching, I'm making sure that I don't lose anything. And I think wherever any of you guys are in the world, you probably have had that feeling. So you just have to keep fighting against it and know that if you're putting in the work, your competitor might not be, and you'll be getting that advantage and progressing. So it's difficult at times, but you need to get it done.
And we still managed to squeeze a few gaming sessions in with the old housemates from university. So
I mean, I'm getting better at Among Us, but if any of you guys are proper Among Us players, I think Johnny could probably rival you, because he's just killing all of us without anyone having a clue, which is unfair at times.
Well, that's my competitive edge. Right, so let's move on to the football then, because we've talked about you getting to Sweden and everything that's happened. We've talked about the Swedish season and the timings being quite different in the vlog before, but let's talk quickly about like the Pittier team. How's things changing? What's happening with the team at the moment?
Yeah, so I think like every club, when you come to the off season, there's obviously some changes in terms of the preparation for the next season, depending on what you've achieved, on what you want to do. For those of you guys that watched Series 4, we obviously had a really good season last year. We weren't expected to do quite as well as we did, but we ended up winning Division 2 Norrland, getting promotion up to Etan, or Division 1 in Sweden, which is the third tier of Swedish football. When you go into that division, obviously there's a big change in terms of the level of teams that you're playing against, the type of clubs that you're competing with. But we had such a strong team last year. I mean, the main aim, I'm sure, at the club was to try and keep the core of that team together, make some additions which are going to improve us as a team so that we can compete against theoretically better clubs. And from what I've seen, obviously I haven't got into training yet, I haven't got into pre-season with them, but I've obviously been talking to the club and talking to my teammates and things, and we've made some really exciting signings already and managed to keep some really important players too. So there's a lot of time still to go. The season itself doesn't start until the end of March, beginning of April. Yeah. But I think when we get to that point, although we'll probably be underdogs again, as we were last year, I think we'll have hopefully an even stronger team than we did last time, which is really exciting from a playing point of view.
I think for any team, no matter what league it's in, the newly promoted team's goal for the next season is always going to be to stay in that new league. You're very rarely going to be challenging for the big guns at the top of the league who are pushing to get promotions themselves. But exciting that you guys have got some more strength to be added, some more depth to be added, and yeah, hopefully you guys are gonna have a really strong, competitive season, and fight to stay there, and hopefully, push on and maybe even fight to gain some places in the table.
Yeah, and I mean, from a competitive side, I think, like you say, there's obviously some disparity in terms of you're going into a bigger league against bigger teams. And at the same time, you have to remember that there's also teams that have come down from the second division who are some really big clubs. So if you look in the Division 1 North or Etan North that we're going into, especially for those of you that know Swedish football, we actually have some massive clubs in there that probably should be higher up in the Football League pyramid. But as a player, that's such an exciting opportunity to test yourself against those massive teams. And as a team, it's an exciting opportunity to show that you can prove doubters wrong. You can prove people that you're a very good squad. And regardless of whether it's a bigger club or a bigger stadium or a bigger budget or whatever you compare it to, it's still 11 against 11. And last season, we pretty much managed to do as best as we possibly could. We lost one game. We kept so many clean sheets. We were a very solid group. So the aim is to do exactly the same by improving the processes and improving the work that we do on a daily basis. So there's definitely work for us to do, but I'm excited for us to put ourselves up against those big guns and against those big clubs and show what we can do as Pittier.
Yeah, the big guns themselves, you said like the clubs they're all over Sweden now. I know you're technically in the North Division,
yeah,
but you're going to be traveling to some venues that are quite far away. There's going to be new processes that you guys have got to get used to in the traveling and probably flying this year to games and staying away. It's got to be exciting for you guys to be having this opportunity, but at the same time, there's got to be a switch where you're going to have to turn it on at points in the season and be really focused to get some big results, I think, to fight to stay there.
And I think that's the big thing with Swedish football. That I think obviously if you're not from Sweden and you've not watched Swedish football before, that's probably something that you wouldn't have thought about. But the fact that the third tier of Swedish football that we've just gone into is split north and south. But when we say north, there's only two other teams within 150 miles of Piteå. The rest are from 450 to 650 miles away, down near Stockholm. Sweden is a massive country. So the fact that we're gonna have to travel away to those places, but also the fact that they're gonna have to come up to Piteå, that's not going to be a nice journey for them up from Stockholm. So it provides some problems that you need to solve, but at the same time, it provides some opportunities. If you can turn your home into a bit of a fortress, if you can make it a place that people don't like to come, if you can get good results at home, and then away, like you say, new processes, flying, traveling, whatever it is, making it so that it's efficient as possible. And from a playing point of view, you can recover as quickly as possible. If you can get some good wins away, suddenly you're in a really good position. So it's another thing that for me personally, I get to experience that's a little bit different. Compare it to Gibraltar, where all 12 teams played in the same stadium. I'm quite excited to be able to fly around and to try something new and to do it that way. So it's it's another stage of development and learning. But again, I think for keeping goals, it'll be really good fun because I'll be able to bring the camera along, bring the GoPro along, show you what it's like for a big away trip, playing away in Stockholm or even playing at home. I know people loved the kind of match day vlogs last year. So that's something that's really exciting. But from a playing point of view, as an individual and as a team, it's a really good test. So I just kind of touched on keeping goals there and going into Series 5. From your point of view, obviously we've been doing this for a while. We started keeping goals back in 2017.
Yeah, a while now.
Exactly. But what, from your point of view, are you excited about going into Series 5 from a purely keeping goals perspective?
I think I'm really looking forward to editing some stuff where you are on the move and doing some away games. You mentioned it earlier in this podcast, and it's going to be exciting. I think it brings a new dynamic to the whole series, having some overnight trips. Probably we had one in last series, but I know a lot of people enjoyed that, and a lot of people enjoyed seeing your process over a few days away. I'm the same, for all of you guys who who, don't know, I'm really interested in it. I think finding out about athletes and athletes' schedules and seeing how people work at this kind of level is fascinating. So, having Conor send me the videos to edit, I find it just as interesting watching them. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I mean, even like from us going through university together, and you were involved in sport, I was involved in sport. It's something that we've both really enjoyed doing. But from the birth of Keeping Goals, I think it's been nice to see the level that we've been moving through, the different kind of places that we've been to see, the different types of football. Like you mentioned, the Osterson vlog from last season when we had the big away trip. The other lads in the team quite enjoying it. You could see like what it was like to go in the hotel, like get to the stadium before the game. We should have some nice stadiums. We should have some quite fun trips. And I think the lads are also getting used to actually like they quite fancy being in the vlog as well. So we should see some quite fun stuff with them. So
yeah, well,
I
it's
think
their
that'll be
media
really
training.
exciting.
You just kind of have to pass it off to the club as it's their media training. This is
well, yeah, you might remember it from Osterson when we were going. I think Sia scored twice. And after the game, he was like, "Oh, let me tell everyone about my goals. Let me," and we were chatting about that and things like that. And I think it's great to see what the lads are like themselves. I mean, instead of just watching them play football and think, "Oh, they're just a footballer," I think actually seeing them on an individual basis is something that's quite unique about that type of content. So hopefully, traveling about a bit, they'll get to show a bit more like who they are individually too, because I know them on a personal basis. So it's nice for other people to see that as well.
I think for me, another thing that's really exciting for me, we noticed it at the kind of the back end of last season with Modern Day GK vlog. It's when we started reading like comments and I started seeing all the engagement from people from different sides of the world. I'm really looking forward to kind of this opportunity to engage with more people from different parts of the globe. We were talking to people who are in different hemispheres and had different football seasons to us, and it's crazy.
I know. I mean, there was a comment on the episode 1 from series 5, and it was a couple of people from Canada, and they were making fun of the fact that obviously the vlog comes out at 11 a.m. UK time on the Sunday, but for them that's 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. and they're joking that they're gonna have to get up for it. But it's amazing to see that people, like you say, across the world are getting some value from it, that they're enjoying it. And especially coming to Sweden, I love the fact that I'm seeing more people from Sweden watching the vlogs, and they might be watching it for something different. They might love to see Pittier as a club and what the club are doing and the progression of the club through the system. Obviously they might enjoy seeing it from a personal point of view, but it's amazing to see so many people, like you say, across the globe who take different types of value from the content. Because when we create it, we think this video is going to be really helpful for this reason, but it could be for 4 or 5 or 6 other different reasons that we never even thought of, that someone gets something from it. And especially in lockdown, the majority of our audience are still from the UK. They're in the middle of quite a harsh lockdown at the moment. I think there's been a shift of people wanting to be close to sport, wanting to be close to the action, because they're not able to go in person. And you've seen that with channels like Ben Foster with the Cycling GK, amazing channel, unbelievable goalkeeper and such a great guy as well. But people have really enjoyed that channel because he brings them along with him, and he shows what it's like to live his life as a goalkeeper playing at the very, very top of the sport. So the same with Keeping Goals. If we can give people value and enjoyment by bringing them along on that journey and documenting it for the reality of what it is, which is what we've always done, then that's something which, I mean, still excites me loads going into series 5, which is ridiculous that we're even on series 5, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, crazy. I think so many more people now, like you mentioned with the lockdowns and everyone's different situations, they're so open to new types of content and watching more. I know personally I've started to watch like video game streaming online, and I never used to do that at all, but for me that's just a whole new way of engaging with an audience. So for us to be able to be a part of that and grow our own community, it's been really, really great and really kind of heartwarming to be able to do that during these times.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've pretty much come to the end, I think, of the podcast for today. We were saying we want to do something a bit kind of nice and fun to end the podcast episodes. We get loads of questions in the comments of the vlogs all the time, kind of asking for advice on different things. And we thought it'd be good fun to pick one with each podcast and dissect the question and try and answer it as best as possible. So for you guys going forward, if you want any question answered on the podcast, leave a comment on one of the vlogs on the Sunday, the latest vlog on the Sunday, and we'll answer it as best as possible on the podcast. But was there any from this Sunday's episode that we could chat about?
Yeah, you know what made me laugh was you training with Sean outside in the cold weather in the UK, and we've all been there as kids playing with footballs, and when it's a cold day and the ball feels like an absolute brick. But the comment from Ivan, using a mitre football on a cold British day, you my dear sir, are by far the bravest person I've ever seen.
He's not wrong, because it's almost become a cliche, especially in the UK, of, like you say, a mitre ball on a cold day, because traditionally the mitre balls were kind of the older footballs, and especially the leather casings. If it was cold, it was horrific. And it takes me back to when I was playing at Macclesfield in the youth team, and we used to have the mitre footballs, and it used to be our job as youth team players to pump the balls up, get the goals out, like help like the coaches set everything up before the first team went out to train. And whoever was on the footballs, if you pumped them too hard and it was cold, you were in big trouble, because the first teamers would find you. They might even try and do a tan ass against you if it was that cold, just to show you how hard the footballs were. So like the mitre balls on a cold day, especially as a goalkeeper, horrific. I've taken a few of them to the face in my time. But like you say, training with Sean, frosty park, kind of net loosely hanging, and a mitre football, it doesn't really get any purer football than that.
You know, I don't think I've ever told you this story, but when I was a lot younger, my mum is from the northeast of England, so a lot of her family are all Sunderland fans. So I can't remember whether the Sunderland were in the Championship or whether in the Premier League, but I went with my mum and a couple of uncles, I think, to a Sunderland game, and it was around like the New Year's time, you know, cold weather, cold football game in the northeast of England. And I was only young at this point, but I remember the ball went out around where we were sitting. And, you know, you don't think much of it, do you? Especially when you're young, you're just kind of fascinated by the whole occasion. And I just remember that this ball needed to go back to the pitch. And there was a guy in the stands who threw this ball back to the pitch. And we were on like the first or second row. It didn't make the pitch. It hit me square on the back of the head. And maybe this is why I wasn't a Sunderland fan, or never have been a Sunderland fan ever since. But that was a cold northeast day and a football to the back of the head. So.
And that's the worst, because you didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
You couldn't brace for the impact. Horrible. Yeah. Didn't go back to the Stadium of Light since.
No, never been to the Stadium of Light since, I don't think.
Converted into rugby as a result.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, mate.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. It's good to be back on the podcast front. But yeah, like we said, we're going to be much more consistent with it. Hope we brought you some value. If you enjoyed today's podcast, wherever you get your podcast, please leave us a review. Helps us out massively, helps us reach as many people as we possibly can. Give us a 5-star rating if you're on Apple. Subscribe if you're on Apple or Spotify. But thank you very much for listening, and we will see you very, very soon for the next episode of the Keeping Goals podcast. Thank you very much, Johnny.
Thank you.
And speak to you soon, guys.